This is a video about Saab cross-wheel drive rear diff. I had a faulty cross-wheel drive rear diff, and I'd like to make a video to explain what could be wrong in it. And first of all, I want to bust some myths that are out there on this unit. We'll begin with the rear section of the rear diff. As far as I'm concerned, the rear section is pretty much a standard differential. It's pretty much as indestructible as any other differential. I've opened this unit and it's pretty standard. It's just bearings and a casing with standard ring gear and crown gear pinion. So that's about it. And for the part I want to bust myths is that some people are thinking that the fluids can mix up between the rear section and the center differential section. I'm pretty sure this is near impossible because, as you can see here, there is a seal that seals the rear part so that the fluid cannot go out and mix with the other section. And it's the same for the center differential section. Here I have a unit that I have dismantled, but before dismantling it, there was another seal right here that is just sealing the other fluid from mixing up with the rear section fluid. And I know people will say, yes, but what if the seal are just worn out and broke? Well, on the rear section where it's mating with the center section, you can see here that pretty much I think every unit have a notch right there, and this notch is, in my opinion, preventing the two fluids to mix up, because chances are that if you have a worn out seal on either of the section, the fluid will just leak out and go on the floor. So there cannot have so much pressure so the fluids are mixing up, unless you have this notch here that is clogged up with some dirt. But I'm pretty sure this cannot cause the fluid to mix up. So this is the first myth I would like to bust. I'm not a professional mechanic, but pretty sure this is near impossible, since it will just leak on the floor and you will just lose all your fluid. The other myth I'd like to bust is, as I was saying a couple minutes ago, is that this part of the differential is pretty standard, and it seems to be built as any other differential. So unless you have a crack that is going on your assembly, your casing, this differential is not less strong or is not weaker than any other unit. Indeed, if you are just always launching your car with the gas pedal to the floor, you will eventually break something. And I mean, this is the same thing for every differential. So it's not weaker, in my opinion. It's pretty beefy, though. I was impressed as how it was beefy for a little cross-wheel drive or all-wheel drive car. So the myth I'd like to bust is like this differential is not weaker, so people just think it's weaker because it's Haldex and it's shit, but it's pretty cool as a differential. Okay, so the next part of the video, I just want to talk about the center section, because I mean the center differential, if you like, because a lot of people are saying that they are having problem and these diffs are just weak and it's shit because it's Haldex, but it's pretty cool, as the engineering is pretty cool, and I think it's working great, but there is flaws. Some can be repaired and some are a bit trickier to repair. So I'll just explain for now how it's made and how it's assembled. So like I said previously, when you disassemble the center section from the rear section, it's just 4 bolts on a flange here, and you just pop out the center section. So this drive shaft with splines just go into the clutch assembly that goes here. And how it's made is, first you need to remove this seal. There is this seal that is just pressed in the casing. And by the way, this can be one of your problems you are having if you lose fluids. The problem there is here is the clutch pack is a wet clutch pack. So if your seal here is worn out, you will lose your fluid and the clutch will not work, because this clutch pack is working with oil pressure. What is happening is there is the clutch control unit here, and in the clutch control unit here is normally a board, the control unit board, and it's plugging in with this solenoid here. What this solenoid do is that it's a proportional valve solenoid, and it's just with the current applied to it, it's adjusting the oil pressure that goes in, and that pushes on a working piston here around. This is a bearing, by the way, and it just compresses the clutch pack, so that I will talk about it later, so that this section is mating with the clutches, the 2 different clutches set, and it will spin another shaft that goes here normally, that is just spline in there on this shaft, so that the drive shaft just give its power to the rear differential. How it's working, first of all, is that you have an hydraulic pump here that creates the hydraulic pressure, and at idle it just flows freely in the system. But when the ECU, I mean the control unit of the clutch pack, is applying current to this solenoid, it just adjusts the hydraulic pressure that goes in there and make this piston push on the clutch pack. So it's pretty simple. It's cool, but it can have flaws. So the first flaws it can have is that this hydraulic pump can worn out and not work properly. So this is the first problem you can have, and these little pumps here are just like $300, so you hope you don't have to change it often, but it can happen. In my case, this faulty unit is not the problem. I will go to the problem I have, but not now. But this can be the problem, but in my case it's not. The second thing that can go wrong is this little solenoid here. I never heard of those solenoid going wrong, but as anything, it's electrical and it can go wrong. So if it's not closing or opening right, you can get in a situation where your clutch is always locked, or always unlocked. So this is wrong, because if you are always locked, obviously you will have like a 4x4 truck that is always locked, and if you're running on dry pavement, this is really wrong, and it will cause other things to break. If you're always unlocked, obviously your cross-wheel drive is not working, so it's not really cool. I mean, if you have a cross-wheel drive car, you know what it feels like to drive those cars, and you want to have a rear differential that is working, because it's so fun to drive. So this is it for the electrical things that can go wrong. Obviously the control unit board that goes here can go wrong also. I never heard also of that thing going wrong, but obviously it's electrical. If you have a leak here of oil and it goes in the board, obviously the board will not work right, because this solenoid here is just pressed in here in the casing with some O-ring. So if the O-ring goes wrong or worn out, the oil will just flow out here, because there is a lot of pressure here. We are talking about a couple psi. I don't remember the number, but it's a big a lot of oil pressure here. The thing that can happen also is this oil pump here also have two O-rings here to seal, because obviously it's creating some oil pressure, and if the O-rings go worn out, you know what will happen. It will just leak out here under the differential, and you will not be able to create some oil pressure, so the clutch pack will not compress, and your center differential will not work properly either. Now, this is the things that can go wrong, that are electrical and oil pressure related. But you have another thing that is not my case, but it can happen. This cover can be removed, and there is a little oil filter here to filter the oil, so there's no dirt in it. But this casing has a seal all around here, and if it happened often. I heard about it often, that the seal around the cap here that is bolted to the case is worn out, and you have an oil leak. So, as I was saying a couple minutes ago, is that if you lose your oil, obviously the pump will not be able to create pressure, because there is no oil that is going in, so the clutch pack will not compress right. So this is the most often problem that people are seeing. It's really easy to change it. You just have to unbolt the cover here, replace the seal, and I suggest that as you replace the seal, you should replace the little oil filter that is in there. On Rock Auto and some other website like Saab Parts and Hero Parts, this kit is just coming with the oil filter. It's a seal and an oil filter, and it's affordable, so you have no reason to not replace the two parts at the same time. So you have no problem in the future. So that are all things that can go wrong with this unit, but there is some that are more often than others, and so that's it. In my case, the fault that I had is not related to any of those things. I bought the car with 200,000 kilometers, and I didn't check right before buying it, but the cross-wheel drive was not working at all. When it began snowing in here, around here, I just launched it on an ice patch, and it was just not working at all. So I've just taken the part out of the car, and I just replaced it with a unit that I had that was working right, and I dismantled it to see what it was. I had a little leak of oil, but that was not the problem at all. Normally, when you are dismantling this unit, you should be able to rotate this part that will obviously obviously connected with this part at all time, and you should be able to rotate it, and without any oil pressure it should make this thing rotate, so you can see that the spline in the differential are rotating, even if there is no oil pressure at all that is built in it. In my case, I was rotating this part, and the spline in the differential here, where the axle shaft for the wheels are going in, was not rotating at all. So obviously I had a bigger problem than just an oil pressure or the little oil leak I had. So I dismantle it, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'll just explain you how I dismantle it. So as I was saying, when you take the center differential apart from the rear section, you have a seal that is pressed in here. You just have to remove the seal. Obviously, when you're removing it, you will have to replace it because it's pressed in, and to remove it, you see that I had to just punch it with a screwdriver so I can just pry it out. So this seal needs to be replaced if you open this section of the center differential. Now what you will find in it, first of all, is this casing that is holding the clutch plates. You will just have a bearing that goes here that is like that with the seal, so the clutch casing here can rotate apart from the seal, so that it is not grinding with the seal. So this bearing is used for that. Now you will find the clutch casing. Normally it's in there like that, and it contains all the clutch plates that you can see here. How it is working is that, you see, there is one metal clutch and one clutch plate that I don't know at all what is this material, but well, you have different style of clutch plates, and when the oil pressure is building, it will just compress those clutch, and it will make them lock together, so that this part that is splined with the yellow clutches here will make this part of the clutch pack rotate, because the other set of clutch is splined. As you can see, the outer spline here are just splined in with this thing, but from the inside, right here. So that is how it works. It will just lock up and make the whole thing rotate at the same speed. In my case, the problem that I had is, you can see here, you have the spline here that is normally welded or pressed in, or I don't know how it's made exactly, but it should rotate always with this part, and this spline is where this drive shaft is supposed to go in. So as you understand, when this thing is rotating because it's locking with its clutch plate and being rotated by this part, it will make this part rotate, and this spline will make this shaft to rotate and engage the rear differential. But here is my problem. You see, when I was rotating this part before dismantling it, the spline in here that are supposed to make the wheel rotate was not rotating at all, even if I was applying some current to the pump and the solenoid here, and it wasn't rotating at all. So I dismantled it, and I found that this part is supposed to be welded with this other part, or I don't know how it's supposed to be mated together, but it's clearly not mated together at all anymore. So as you can understand, this part was just not rotating at all during the time that this part was rotating. This one was just not mating at all. So this is one of, in my opinion, weakest point of this design. We don't see clearly here, but because I have a shitty camera, but here it looks like it's just broke, or I don't know how it was mated, but it doesn't look like it was welded. It looks like this part was just pressed with the other part, or I don't know how exactly, but it doesn't look at all like it was welded before. So I don't know if the previous owner was just launching the car every day on dry pavement, or I don't know what, but my guess is that this part just broke. So you can figure out that my rear differential was not working anymore. The bad thing with this story is that this part cannot be bought alone. Well, I search on the internet, and I'm pretty much a gearhead, and I do everything on my own, or I try to, and I usually buy my own parts on the internet, and I try to repair all my things on my own, but I didn't find any place that could sell this part on its own. The only thing I could find is like on Saab parts, or Euro parts, or other store that still carry these differential. It's like, if you want this part, you have to buy this part with the clutch pack and all this casing and all that, everything that is attached to it, except I think the control module here. But like this part and clutch pack and all, everything that goes in, like with the bearing and the seal, is like 1,500 or something like that. So it's very expensive. So what I'm gonna try to do is to just use my TIG welder or my MIG, or I don't know what I'll do yet, but I'll try to weld it back as I can. On this side I cannot weld very much because there is a bearing that goes here and the seal goes here, so I cannot weld much thing on this side without constraining any other part that goes around it. So I don't know if I will be able to do anything on this side. But on this side, I think I will be able to re-weld it as I can. And when you weld, there is like waves of metal that are still that are remaining there. So I'll try to machine the remaining waves of metal that will be created by the welding, so I can try to restore this unit and make it work. Because nothing is broken in this unit. I mean, the clutch pack, it has, as far as I know, it has 200,000 kilometers, and it's like new. I don't see any burning on it, any sign of excessive wear, and it's pretty much like new. So because it's a wet clutch pack, so it doesn't break as much as any other clutch that would be dry. So this unit is like new, except this fucking part here. So I'll try to restore it and we'll see what happens. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope I have busted at least 2 myths, and that you guys will understand what is happening in this unit. I did this video because I didn't find any of these info as deep as that. So like someone who would have dismantled this unit, and I wanted to understand what is happening in this clutch, in this differential. So if you liked it, just give a like, and you can comment. If you have question, I'll be pleased to answer it, and post another video if I missed some detail you want to know. So that's it. Thank you.